How many people are impressed by the good work that a grassroots organization is doing to the point that they have the highest following on media? They are the ones who get to come to the Senate meetings and stuff to give their perspectives. How often does that happen? It's normally the biggest developer, the biggest hoarder, the greediest person with the most money. It's always these people. So that's what we worship. That's the society we live in. That's our mindset right now.
Welcome to Care More, Be Better, a podcast for people like you who care about the social impact of conscious companies and everyday heroes. Hear inspiring stories from those who put people and planet before profit and personal gain. You'll learn how you can make a difference, vote with your dollars, and get involved today. Here's your host, Corinna Bellizzi.
Welcome to Care More, Be Better, a podcast for people like you who want to regenerate our planet, our communities, and our collective future. As of today, our community has planted 27,029 trees through our collaboration with forestplanet.org, one for every new subscriber and supporter. Together, we're proving that small acts as a collective can have a massive impact. I'm honored to be joined by my friend, Ali Horriyat. This is his second appearance on the show, so if you really enjoy today's conversation, I encourage you to look back to our earlier interview in March of 2024. Now, Ali walked away from the world of finance in 2016. He donated his wealth to pursue a vision where compassion, empathy, and social impact are at the heart of human action. Since then, he has authored 25 books, from poetry to philosophy, and he launched Compassiviste. This was to create a future built on harmony rather than one built on greed. His work invites us all to become active participants in compassion and to embrace a more humane economy. He joins me today to talk about his latest book, Beyond Greed, the Compassiviste Economy for Social Harmony. Ali, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Wow, that was quite an intro. Thank you. I was impressed with myself for a minute. I was like, really? Okay.
Well, you've done a lot, and I could have spoken on about your academic prowess and background, but really, I think we're here to talk about something that we both are super passionate about, and that is making a more compassionate future for all. When you were here with me in March of 2024, we spoke about your personal journey of leaving behind that wealth. I'd really love for you to share more about how, looking back, that conversation might stand today. I mean, you even brought me to tears during that conversation. So I wonder, if you could share an update.
Looking back, it's been over a year, and it didn't feel that long ago. And I feel that we're in a place with so much more urgency since that 1 year. So when you say we spoke in March of 2024, I go back to March of 2024 and I think, wow, we felt the urgency there, but we were so much ahead in terms of being able to create the harmony that I'm advocating for. And now it's become, the challenges have really grown since we spoke. That's one thing that comes to mind. But the other thing that comes to mind is seeing the growth. I mean, when I spoke with you, you were thinking of starting something and doing something, and there was a lot of talks about things. And look at you now. You're doing them. You're in the middle of these processes. So congratulations, and that's the congratulations I bring to everybody, in the sense that we're active. We're not breaking. We're not folding over. We're not sitting and saying, oh, it's all doomed, so we might as well just forget about everything. People are just coming out harder and stronger. So I feel a lot more passionate in my involvement. I feel a lot more blessed that we have this resilience as a group, not individually, as a collective. I mean, we've kept in touch. We are supporting each other. We're growing. We're doing bits of different parts that come together. I love it. I feel empowered because the group's just becoming much more activist minded in the sense, which goes to the Compassiviste model, because activism is kind of one strong part of it. And you've been a full-fledged Compassiviste during the year since we spoke. You've launched your see something Tell me what it is.
Circle B. Yeah.
Circle.
So we could talk
There you
about
go.
that separately, but I had this wild idea that I was going to try and go up against Amazon and create something that was more about circularity and offering products that were only truly compassionate and their bringing together. So it would definitely sit with the Compassiviste economy, but I ultimately found that it would have taken far more of my full-time effort. And so I sunset it for the time being, sadly. But that's just the reality when you're trying to do so many things at once. Sometimes you have to choose what you're going to really focus on. And in my case, I chose pursuit of my PhD. I couldn't fit all of these. You had to choose what the big rocks are, right? My big rocks in that box were like,
Can I jump in here? I want to say something important about what you said. You shelved your Circle B to pursue PhD. And if you think about the impact and the power of community, right? Basically, what we're trying to bring through Compassive East. If you have that community that is so aligned and so involved and so committed alongside you, we wouldn't have had to shelf that website, right? We could have delegated the website to the rest of the community while you pursue your PhD, which is what we used to do in communities. We used to live communally. We used to be able to support each other in many ways, right? And everything would have flowed together. You couldn't do that because, like you said, you're one person and there's these two full-time things that need to be done, and you had to choose between one full-time, which is, it's not sad at all. It's something that we're learning. Now I learn that if we can rally a community around, hey, can we take Corinna's work and actually put it back up and move it, and have an hour of her week dedicated to kind of coming on and advising or doing whatever she needs to do as like the visionary of this space, and really keep it going. Is that possible? I think it's possible. It just requires some effort. So uh, it's important to see these things. I mean, in an economy, it's about that. An economy is about that. It's not about how much money can I make to go and buy what I want to buy. It's how can we communally survive and be in a place of abundance and comfort and togetherness and love and happiness and joy, and that's what it should be purpose to.
well, and Ali, to your point, I don't disagree. I also think it takes a true team to lift a big idea up. And I didn't have the bandwidth or the money to be able to get that team completely together. So when I confronted that with honesty and I said, what are my big rocks and where am I strained, right? I had to acknowledge that I already have the full-time job of being a mom of two young boys. I already have the full-time job of my work, which puts food on the table and makes sure that we're living and thriving, and able to take vacations and spend time as family together in unique ways. And then I had the big rock of something I really wanted to pursue, which is this PhD in sustainability. And I feel like sometimes it doesn't mean that I've said goodbye to Circle B. You can still go and look at circleb.co. That website is up, right? The idea is still there. But I needed to take this time to really dive headlong into this journey of gaining a deeper understanding of how companies talk about sustainability, what consumers understand about that message, and where there's a disconnect, so that we can be more successful in creating a movement that shifts people's action towards change. Because one of the things I confronted in even trying to put Circle B together, because I wanted to have this very high bar for what was truly sustainable, right? And I do things like assess a brand and have them send me a package, and it would come with bubble wrap or, styrofoam peanuts in it. And I'm just like, wait a minute, why is this packaging being used? Or I'd look at the packaging and I'd realize that they were using virgin plastics and virgin paper, and everything was really not put together in as mindful a way as possible. So I didn't want to create a product, which would be the site selling these goods, and have there be that real purposeful disconnect. Like, this is not what the intention of the company is. And I want to keep that pure, right? And so it kind of forced me again to look towards where the gaps lie, how we solve for them, and whether even just doing the work of pursuing my PhD and shining a light on these areas that need to be paid attention to could actually help to move more companies and whatnot forward to create more change more rapidly. And so that's where my focus has transitioned for the time being. I look at it as compassionate. I look at it as activist. I mean, we're both in this same kind of pool. And my goal at the end of it is to create a consumer-facing book that can help people better understand these things. Maybe it's a series. That's also something I'm considering. So that I'm putting the knowledge I've gained not only through working in industry for so long, but also the research I've done and these other business-related experiences that are real and tangible, right?
Yes, and you know, to your point of the assessments that you made and everything else, this is a masterclass in prioritization to your audience, and I'm glad I brought it up and you shared you shared. You know, do not remove this in the edits, please, because I want to say something. Sometimes you need to make these choices and you need to take these decisions because these are the decisions that can make the difference in the long run. I have this thing I call TBI, which is transformation by investment. And it's very different than ROI, which is return on investment. In a return on investment model, you may have chosen to pursue, for example, the website and make money from it and create a business model and hire the right people and go after funding and all those things. But somewhere deep inside, you may have thought, the TBI, the transformation that I can bring to society and to the planet overall, is more impactful through my PhD and through what I can gain and do on this stream. So you went through this deep, analysis, and you came out the other side choosing TBI. You chose to be a part of the momentum that transforms versus an ROI model, for example, that says, no, this will work now, this can work now. And you saw the flaws and the faults that you couldn't really control by all these people who say we're a sustainable company, we're net zero and all that stuff. And then they come out with the ways that you're talking about. So it becomes a little depressing and discouraging. But now you're taking more activism to do that, right? And in that sense, I had the same situation as you. So I thought about that for a while. And then I came back and I said, there is no way that I'm going up against, for example, giants, Coca-Cola or H&M or anybody like that to make them change. And I'm not going to be able to make people stop drinking Coca-Cola or stop buying from H&M. But what I am able to do is to create a carbon label that is standardized, that is mandated, a third-party standardized label, because today you may take a flight from London to New York with 3 different airlines, and you'll, for the same seat on the same type of aircraft on the same flight route and day, you will get 3 different numbers for your CO2. And you're thinking, why? It should be the same, or it should be within nominal numbers of the same. Like, not one is 5,600 and the other one's 3,200. That's a huge margin of error there. But then you realize they're each calculating the way they want to, with their own parameters and everything else. But now when you come to standardized model like food, you know about this, nutritional values, they're standardized. We don't each kind of calculate to a certain variance. They are standardized, right? And so if we had that certain small variance and we were able to standardize that information, and I could put on a Coca-Cola label by policy, by the choice of the people pursuing policy, saying this is a right that we have, and I could put that same label on Pepsi, and Pepsi says 2.7 per can and Coke says 3.6 per can, well, guess which one people are buying in a substitutable equal price commodity? They're going to consume the one with lesser impact. What's the other one going to do? It's going to start reducing it before they go bankrupt, because that's the margin of difference that making people choose. You're going to have the same thing as a price war, but a sustainability war. Now they're not going to send the bubble wrap anymore. Now they're not going to do those things, but they're mandated by the force of the market. You're not fighting Amazon head on. You're fighting Amazon through the laws that made Amazon, through the market ability that made Amazon. That carbon labeling is going to make a difference. I shut down 3 programs to pursue the carbon labeling because we were going to do a Compassiviste, a program for, a certification program to say, look, if you see our C label on products, please go and buy it because we've done the math, we've done the science, we've done the research, and they're good people. Go and buy them. And then I realized it's not going to work. It doesn't work. It hasn't worked. But what will work is affecting them on the supply side, on the production side, and giving people the power to make the choices. So we develop, we grow. There's nothing wrong with saying I shelved that or I'm pursuing this. It's just a matter of you knowing how much impact you're going to have in 3 to 4 years when you're done with your PhD and you come out with, an AK-47 to an AK-47 war instead of a pocket knife to an AK-47 war. So good for you.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, I don't have another 3 years. I'm planning to finish my PhD dissertation by the end of next summer. So
you fast track.
Yes, as quickly as possible, because frankly, I want to put it to work. I also have this vision for myself, and I think it's important to have your own kind of dream boards, but I will turn 50 next September. So the idea of achieving this before my midlife milestone, I do intend to pass the centenarian years. I have high hopes anyway.
I said, we're the same age and I look like I'm your dad. So you're doing good there to get to 100.
Right? Yeah. One foot in front of the other. And sometimes it feels like you take a couple steps forward and one back and you just keep trekking along. Now, I'm glad that you brought into the conversation already this idea of TBI. I would like for you to unpack this transformation by investment idea, to share how it might shape or reshape business and even reshape how we as individuals approach our goal setting, because each of us has goals. It's not just about business, right?
So TBI started with me seeking funding originally for Compassiviste. And I went in front of people that I knew, that I was confident that I would get funding from, that I was comfortable pitching in front of from my older days. And I got rejected one after the other. And eventually I understood why. I said, you know what? I'm not giving them an ROI. I keep talking about how this is good for the people. Look, we're going to, solve homelessness here. We're going to do this there for the animals. We're going to do all these lovely things. But at the end of the day, even social impact funds and all these lovely words they use to describe themselves are VCs. First is money. Second is if you have some kind of a, something we can toot, something we can kind of PR with that says this has sustainability involved in it, that's an added bonus. We'll give you money there. But the first end has to be, we need to make money from this. And the story normally is, we need to make money from this so that we can fund more great people like you to do more sustainable work. So it was always about money. And if you know anything about making money, you know that you have to sell more, you have to produce more. It comes with that aspect of more economic work behind it. So it's never really as sustainable as it should be. So I went back to the drawing board and I said, how do I make people understand that we need to shift the conversation from ROI, which is a short-term return, to something like a value investment proposition that essentially talks about the long-term benefits of what we're trying to do. So if you look at the long-term benefits, it's kind of like investing in Coca-Cola in 1965 and leaving your money in there and coming back to take it out in 2025. That's a big chunk of a return, or buying Bitcoin in the first 6 months that it started out and then holding it till now. That's a big chunk of a return. How do we explain to people that what we're doing today, your $1 million or $10 or whatever it is today, is going to show a much more harmonious society that will then have a cleaner, more comfortable economy, less pollution, less climate crises, less crime, less desperate acts, less climate migrations and other all these social issues that we're going through, if we can reduce those incrementally and be able to show them transparently and statistically, then would you invest in that? Is that value to you in the long run? And suddenly people started saying yes. People started understanding that concept of value investment placed into the social order and the social world. So that became transformation by investment. So you invest today for a transformed society tomorrow. So if you go and if you look around in your city or anywhere you're in and you think to yourself, if I had $1 billion to invest in the infrastructure and invest in many of the things that my city needs, 15 years from now, my city would have all these things at a much higher, better level. For example, it could have public health care. It could have all these things that we need to have.
Better transportation. I mean, I'm just looking at like the microcosm of Santa Cruz County, and Santa Cruz is the area that I live in California. We are building so many new housing buildings and, essentially going from what is typically 2 to 3 stories downtown, right, to 6 to 8 stories downtown buildings, right? And really apartments above shops and no additional parking. So where are people going to house their vehicles? And if they don't have vehicles, how are they going to commute? How are they going to get around? Because they can't simply get to work and to the shops and to do everything that they need to on foot. It's not practical for that, right? So our infrastructure is lacking, and our busing system is kind of abysmal. The schedule, this and that is offered is not very convenient, and it takes a lot longer to get where you want to go because of circuitous routes. So we don't have trains. We don't have a real solution. And this is kind of scary because I can only see, okay, we're going to move from having a housing problem to having a transportation problem. We didn't think to invest in one before the other. And we're going to get stuck, So I really resonate with this idea of transformation by investment. I want to understand, though, how it, or this more compassivist or compassiviste economy differs from capitalism, and whether or not it connects to ideas like donut economies or circular economies. Because I think we in the West especially have a hard time envisioning anything that isn't capitalism because it's all we know.
Now, before I answer that, I want to clarify what capitalism really means when we use it. So the way you present capitalism is what we see today, okay? And this capitalism is not the capitalism that used to exist in some parts of the world, and it's not the capitalism that you will find in The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith, which is, the book that kind of, it's the Western world's origins of capitalism, so to speak. But capitalism has been around ever since trade been around, so as a model. But let's just call Adam Smith the father of capitalism because the West does that. And in that book, he says something to the extent of, let us fund the innovators and the creatives and all the people who can build the technologies and do all these amazing things so that we can improve the lives of the whole. In a sense, let's give the person who's coming up with a tractor for agriculture that will speed up our agricultural production, let's give him the money, let's give her the money, and in return, when they make this agricultural machine that's going to advance all of our lives, we're going to repurpose all that extra production to our comfort and our trade, and the whole will be better off. Nowhere in Adam Smith's capitalism does it say, take the funds, go make the tractor, and then come out and auction it to the highest bidder and just keep increasing the price because people can afford to pay more now that they're making more. And then they're just going to turn around and charge your tomatoes 5 times more expensive to be able to afford your machinery. It doesn't say that. It just says, let's give people it's kind of like the sports model where let's give our pro athletes a lot of money so they don't have to worry about anything and literally just come on the field and put their best athleticism on the field without stresses in their mind or anything that can reduce their performance. And so we pay them well to do that. Now, obviously, there's a lot of modern capitalism in that, but I'm just saying it's kind of like that, where it's supposed to be beneficial for the team there. Here, it's supposed to be beneficial for the whole, right? And so that got destroyed into what we have today. So I want to separate between that capitalism and today's capitalism, right? What I'm talking about is today's capitalism as a problem, and not the idealistic version that was in The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith, which also radically is almost similar to what Karl Marx said. Karl Marx said, let's remove the capitalism from the market and let's leave the main agents to trade and develop and build and produce and sell and everything else without these extra arms in there that basically suffocate us. It's the same thing that Adam Smith was saying, nothing different. We just labeled them different to make more sales and to create more departments in our universities and everything else. But I think that a compassivist society differs from today's capitalism in that when we approach consumption from the consumer space under a compassivist economy, we're doing so for two kinds of consumptions. One that is based in necessities like food and healthcare needs and whatever else necessity needs are available. And the second is comfort, which, in a society that's advanced or a community that's advanced and a community that's able to provide comforts. And comforts come things like security. Security is not a necessity in the sense of, if you don't have an alarm system in your house and you don't have iron gates on your house, you will die. No, you'll just sleep less comfortably if you are out in the forest because you'll have to keep one eye open to predators. But you can still have some kind of security. So in that sense, the elevated idea of comfort becomes second nature to humanity, which gives way to excess and everything else. But in a compassivist society, we stop at a level where there is equal access, equal comfort. There is a level of egalitarianism in society. So if you really think deeply about cars, for example, did we really need all of the inventions that we have to build a Bugatti or a Lamborghini? Where are you going with that in a city? And generally, most big metropolises have these cars, right? Like New York, Paris, LA, Dubai, and traffic jams in those places are ridiculous. So you're sitting in a car, you're uncomfortable. It's a race car essentially for the track. Why are you in this situation? It's not need. It's not comfort. It's not the need to get from A to B to your office or your work or anything like that. There's capitalism involved in that mindset. So if you come to a compassivist mindset, you start thinking about the compassion module in your brain is there. It doesn't move out. So when you think about, I need a car because I need to get to work, I need to come back, I need to do all the things.
I'm having to bite my tongue here. I mean, I want to say something about Bugattis and all these status symbols, because really we're talking about more than greed then. We're talking about ego, right?
Well, ego develops from greed. Why do you have greed? Part of having greed is not necessarily there's a level of greed that is kind of embedded in us over thousands of years of civilization, which is basically, I don't know if I'm going to have food tomorrow, but if there's a little bit more abundance, I may save it. I may hoard that for tomorrow. It's the same thing the squirrel does. But you see, with the squirrel, we don't think it's psychotic because it's cute. And, sometimes you look in a tree and it's got more, nuts stacked in there than it could eat over the next 5 years. But, we just look at it and let it go. But generally in the jungle, you don't see this kind of greed. Like if you pay attention sometimes, in the savannas, you'll see lions and you'll see gazelles and you'll see a pack of zebras. And there's a lot of them. There's like 50, 20 of them there. And there's maybe like 2 or 3 lionesses going for a hunt. And they could easily kind of, cordon the area and go in and maybe kill 7 or 8 or 10 of those gazelles or zebras and say, you know what, we're just going to kill all of them and we're going to hoard them and we're going to keep them and we're going to eat one every day. You will never ever see this happen anywhere in the world with lions. They will hunt the one animal that they're going to eat, and they will wait for the next time they're hungry to go out and search for food, to the point that sometimes they die not being able to find the food because they weren't thinking smartly ahead of time, in going maybe a few hours earlier because maybe there are no gazelles left out or something like that. But the thing is, they never hoard. Our greed to hoard and to get to that excessive level becomes what you're talking about, becomes that point of beyond greed into ego. Because then it's like, look at how many gazelles I have spread around my house, dead everywhere, that I'm not even going to eat, that are rotting, but I have so much that I don't care, I'll throw them away. That's where we've reached today. In a compassivist mentality, that is an illness. That is where you're not well. You need to, come back into the community and kind of check yourself and say, what is wrong with you? And that's what happened to me. If people go back to the previous conversation, I don't know if we spoke about that then, but I left that world because I realized, my addictions and my problems. And I said, I have to leave. I have to heal myself. I have to go through a rehabilitation process. I will go through all of that, and I did. And that's what we're bringing with Compassiviste economy now, is shifting that mentality from greed and ego status and all of that, because luxury is essentially that. And the world is consuming at a ridiculous rate luxuries, and to the point that we're even seeing a lot of the corporations being involved in shady practices just to be able to supply, and we're kind of feeding into that. But when they do get caught, we kind of, distance ourselves, and we don't want to be part of, having blood on our hands when we make those purchases. But whether at the most expensive brands or the fast fashion and the cheaper brands and everything else, it's us. We're the ones consuming, Corinna. We're the ones consuming. They're not selling to aliens that we can pull ourselves out of the equation and say, oh, H&M is a bad company. Look at what they do, fast fashion, and they're polluting the world. They wouldn't be polluting if we don't keep giving them money to be able to pollute. It costs money to pollute. Who's paying H&M? I'm paying H&M. The people like me are paying H&M to pollute. So the compassivist economy is a mindset shift first. It's not a rules and regulations and standards and all of these things, because as much as policy works, it only works when the people want that policy to come into play. The United States had the prohibition, right? Did that work? How well did that do? You have a history of Al Capone and 1,000 other names and movies made out of the whole prohibition era. How well did that work for you? It didn't work because the people didn't want that. And today, the people don't want what we're talking about in a majority, because if they did, the H&Ms would not be the stocks that we buy into that explode, that go up in price and value.
Now, this all makes me wonder whether you see greed as part of human nature, as something we need to redirect, or is it more of a symptom of the systems that we've built?
Greed, by definition, is a symptom. It's not human nature, because let me ask you this. A mother gives birth to a baby, nurtures the baby. If greed was natural to the mother, would she share food with the baby? Would she put the baby first? Would she nurture and raise the baby?
Well, I've seen it put by people who argue that there's no such thing as an unselfish act, that it is a selfish act because it's ensuring the propagation of that individual's DNA. So even in that, if you look at it through that lens, supporting your family and itself could be somewhat selfish.
Selfish is very different than greed. I'm here selfishly because I enjoy talking to you. It's not bringing me any greed. What am I gaining through? Where is the greed aspect of my selfishness? You see, there are two different words. And linguistics plays a big part of how we trick our minds in the world today. You can be very selfish. You can be so selfish that you want clean air and clean water because you want to live to over 100. That's selfishness. So for you to live to 100, you need to eat clean food, clean air, live in minimized stress. All of these things you need personally to reach that goal of living to 100 or beyond 100. To do that is a selfish want. But are you greedy? Are you taking your neighbor's food? Are you using somebody else to reach that? No, you could be as selfish as you want. It's beautiful. You love yourself. I love that. What's wrong with that? You're not greedy. Greed is a very different concept. Greed is you have, I want more,
Therefore, you get less type thing.
less. And that's fine. And that's how it should be. And I'm okay living with that rule. That's greed. That is never something that is embedded in our nature. And so selfishness is what you refer to when you talk about the mother. Yes, the mother wants the DNA to naturally, that's in our DNA that we want to procreate, and the mother wants that, and the one that wants to make sure the baby's healthy so the baby can grow, and then he or she can also be a part of passing on that DNA. Nowhere is that greedy because she cannot own that DNA. She cannot own the future. She's doing this as a generational lapse. So it's a very different concept.
See, I think I've always connected the ideas of selfishness with greed because I see it as someone saying it's all about me and therefore I'm gathering, I'm hoarding, you see what I'm doing? You see what I'm saying? Like it's connected to the same idea. But I see the separation too. And the distinction is interesting.
I want to live in a secure city. I want to be able to go out at 11 p.m. and walk around my block. I'm selfish. I want full security. But does that mean that it incorporates greed into it? No. If I want that to happen, maybe what I should do is make my society so egalitarian, so comfortable, so affordable in every way for people to have accesses to all the things that they need to, that when I go out to walk at 11 p.m., there isn't somebody waiting to steal my wallet or anything or kill me or something else. So if I can create that, I'm creating it for my selfishness first because I want the comfort of living in a town like that. But there's no greed involved. There's no correlation between greed and selfishness. I can give you so many examples to counter that. But what plagues us is greed. We praise it. We praise. Do you know how many people there are out there who are famous because of their car collection, and they call it art? And we praise them in that way. Big companies, like Sotheby's, will come out and say, we are auctioning one of the cars from, so and so, the great entrepreneur, the great philanthropist, who's been collecting cars as art, and the car is now worth $30 million and it's sitting in his garage. And we're going to auction this and, whatever. And so we look at that like, wow, you're such an amazing person because look at you, you have 30 cars in your collection or 100 cars. I don't even have a car yet. So you're so much better than me. These are the ways we measure, right? We have the Forbes list, we have all those things, but we don't have the same thing. We don't value the things that we talk about, that we pretend that are important in society as a whole. How many people are impressed by the good work that a grassroots organization is doing to the point that they have the highest following on media? They are the ones who get to come to the Senate meetings and stuff to give their perspectives. How often does that happen? It's normally the biggest developer, the biggest hoarder, the greediest person with the most money. It's always these people. So that's what we worship. That's the society we live in. That's our mindset right now. And that's,
you have Greta Thunbergs of the world, but now you have individuals like Peter Thiel trying to take her down, referring to her as the Antichrist,
right.
And then giving a 4-day symposium in San Francisco this September where he's going to talk about how he sees her as the Antichrist.
See, and the thing is now, again, it's not a one person issue or a finger pointing or a blame issue or anything else because,
I'll leave that to me.
No. But even when you do point fingers at one person, okay, that one person was not created in a vacuum. That one person was created by a public. Peter Thiel was part of a group that made a lot of money coming up with some great ideas, and then that money turned into whatever his original beliefs were, and it brought out the person that was underneath and inside, and we gave growth to that. Now, whether we like him or we don't like him, we supported that growth. When Elon Musk became, the richest person in the world with all the influence in the world, we were the ones who were buying the Tesla under the, sustainability talk. We didn't say it's the same as another car. I mean, the glass is the same, the wheels are the same, the tires are the same, the alloy is the same, the metal is the same, the leather inside is the same. We don't even know if this leather came from factory farming. We don't know. Nobody tells us. But we buy Tesla and we drive it proudly. And even the motor, the electric motor, is probably involved in child labor somewhere in Uganda. But that's all good. Why? Because it's marketed this way. We love it. So finger pointing doesn't help because we're the ones who are causing it. We're the ones who bought the Teslas. We're the ones who said, we want this. We're happy with this. So the Compassiviste economy starts with that mindset of saying, no, I need full transparency. I need full education. I need to make the right choices. And I need to be part of a community and an economy that can make those sustainable choices that I can't afford alone. That is the biggest thing we're missing here. A lot of people go out there and they're like, no, we should make these choices and decisions. Some very wealthy people who want to be environmentalists or whatever, finger pointing, not too far from you. You go to Malibu, there's a lot of environmentalists there who are living in properties that are oceanfront that are $20 million. And their energy bill is off the charts. But they're funding some environmentalist operations.
So let's talk for a moment about these practical shifts. I want people to feel empowered through your book because it is an empowering book, and also just to take away some actionable steps. I'm going to state this again. What practical steps can individuals take to embody these more compassivist principles in their daily lives?
The first thing I would tell people to do is to have an honest conversation with yourself and be comfortable doing that. And it doesn't hurt. I love that we started this conversation with you talking about your decisions that you made so openly and vulnerably. You just shared it, right? And I didn't even know I should bring it up or I shouldn't bring it up because I just speak, I don't have those filters. So excuse me and my social skills, but you comfortably, vulnerably explained your position and why you made the choices you made. A lot of us aren't that comfortable as you are. We're not that confident as you are. The first step is to be like you, to be comfortable and confident and vulnerable and say, look, I'm doing my best and this is where I am. It's fine. It's great. It's lovely. I'm going to meet you where you are and we're going to go up together. We're going to build this together. So the first thing is know where you are, know what you need. The second thing is try to educate yourself to how you can make those practical changes. And by education, I don't only mean learn to meditate or things like that, because that's one part of it. But what are you going to meditate on when you don't have the education of what you're talking about? A lot of people don't know sustainability. So when you go into a meditation about how you're going to be more sustainable, do you know if you change the insulation on your house or if you change the aerator on the faucet, which one's going to reduce your CO2 in your household footprint? No, because you don't have the education. So how are you going to meditate? Who's going to come and tell you the answer? See, you need to be practical. So be honest, educate, and then start finding like-minded people. Because if you are, a lot of people in friend groups, there'll be friends from high school or middle school, and now they're in their 40s and 50s, and they'll say, for example, oh, Corinna's the sustainability one. She's probably going to get here 3 hours later because she's taking a bus, and they'll laugh about it and it'll be funny and stuff. But here they come in V8s, each in their own car, and they're probably neighbors, right? And so this friend group needs to start working together, needs to change, needs to start really caring. Because if you care, and if you feel like you're a part of a community, you need to make changes that make your community better. So if you're seeing things that are changing in your community, you're seeing ways that your community is deteriorating, whether not necessarily with a wildfire, it's not always the extreme of, oh, we got hit by a wildfire, now we're going to change our choices. But just look around you and see how things are deteriorating socially. Because environmentalism is a social issue. I don't know who and how we separated environmentalism from social issues, but guess what? Migration is mostly caused by environmental issues, not war. People think people migrate because of war, because Syria went into civil war, people migrate. There's no other reason. No. More farmers migrate because of environmental issues than people in war. So understand your community, understand the changes, understand what you need to make better, and then slowly start to see where you can impact with your dollar. especially in Europe and North America, we have an incredible amount of power with our money. We are the biggest consumers in the world. And we are the reason the rest of the world reacts the way it does. So when China produces the way it does, or India or South America or other countries in the world, they produce in these ways that they do. And then child labor comes along and everything else happens. And we just consume and we don't care because the store is in Manhattan. I don't care. I don't know what's going on. My government said it's okay for me to buy this book. But did you know that the paper of this book was illegally logged from the rainforest? Did you know that a child bound that book that you're buying? Did you know these things? No, you don't have the accesses to know. But why aren't you asking your government? Why aren't you asking your industry? Why aren't you asking the publisher in droves, in masses? I'm not talking about one, two people, but at least 50 million people in the United States buy a book. That's how Amazon became Amazon. Why aren't you all collectively sending an email to all Random House and all the other guys and saying, I need a label that says this book was printed in a country that doesn't have lax laws, or printed in the US? What's wrong with printing in the US then? Why are you printing all the way in India and shipping it all the way in the US and it's still cheaper than in the US? What's wrong with this picture? I need to start thinking about that. So my consumption habits are huge. So when you put this collection together, this is what I would tell people. But the problem is we bail the same way we sign up at the gym January 1st. And then by March 1st, we're in there shamefully like, I can't commit, well, I have this to do and that to do. And you bail.
We fall back into patterns. And so it's breaking the pattern. It's breaking the cycle. But, you know a lot about the world of publishing. And I learned through the process of one of my courses in this PhD program, MN, that a single sheet of paper takes 2 gallons of water to process. And I hadn't thought about that, And so, of course, that 2 gallons of water is 2 gallons of fresh water. And then what happens to that water after? Is it treated or is it just, expelled into the environment? And what impact does that have? So you really start to follow the chain as you learn more about the world of sustainability and what the impacts are of industry and what we do with waste, that the story is very complicated and it takes a discerning eye and a lot of intention on the part of companies and corporations to change how they do things to make it more mindful. So I'd love for you to talk about how businesses, particularly those that are profit driven, begin to move beyond this concept of greed, because they've all been trained to race to the bottom insofar as their production costs are. Are there examples that you can provide as well as you answer this question?
I will answer and I'll provide 2 examples, one of them ourselves. So businesses are essentially reactive to consumer demand. So when let's take Nestle as an example, okay? Nestle produces plastic water bottles and they fill it with water and they put it at Walmart on the shelf and we go in and we buy it. But Nestle doesn't mandate that we have to buy water. It is us who needs the water that mandates somebody produce the water. And so Nestle comes into the market and says, okay, I'll be the water producer. And they put it on the shelf. Now, if we are going to make the change as consumers, then Nestle can start looking into it and say, you know what, the consumer's changing. Me, myself, I'm human. I mean, the people who work at Nestle are not aliens. They don't come from another planet and work 9 to 5 and then go back to their planet. They live here. They're amongst us. They're our neighbors. They're probably ailing from the same problems we are. They don't want this either, but they're stuck because their own, paycheck is tied to that plastic bottle right now. But if the government, the consumer, the business can come together, and if the businesses come together through all these associations and through all their power and their lobbying power, come to the government and say, look, we don't want to produce, if Nestle with all its glory comes to the government and says, we don't want to produce plastic anymore, let's find a solution. Let's bring the government, let's bring the voice of the people, and let's bring Nestle and the other voices of the corporate world and say, how can we transition? What are our real options? Maybe there won't be. Maybe we'll get to a point where we'll be like, nobody's going to do this. No, we're doomed. It's the end of it. That's it. That's fine. At least we tried. But I think there will be a way that we can subsidize a little, reduce a little bit of the profit, and pay out a little more for better quality, in that transformational idea from the consumer, because cleaner air means maybe I'm paying more for my glass bottle of water, but then I'm not paying for lung cancer. So that money stays in my pocket. You see, so that's transformation by investment in the long run. I retire better. I retire healthier. I'm not in the hospital from 50 to 70 and I die not knowing who I am because I have Alzheimer's, because of all the other problems that I ended up taking on because of ROI. So this collective system works. Now, example, I started Compassiviste Publishing, like you said, in publishing world. And why did I start it? Because I got an offer from a publishing house to publish my books. And at that point, I only had 8. Actually, I had 10, but they only wanted 8 of them because they didn't like poetry, or they didn't publish poetry. And when they wanted the 8, those 8 were really philosophy. They were about this mindset shift. They were about why we need to change. And we got to the point where they started changing a lot of it. And then they said, we're going to print, and then you're going to do book tours and yada, yada, all these things. And it was good money too, good deal. And it was a package deal on the books. And I said, no, we can't do this because of this, and we can't do that because of that. And look, in my book, like if you read this paragraph, it tells you why we can't fly me around. And so we had our differences. I walked away. When I walked away, the first thought I had was, wow, this was eye-opening. How many people didn't want to be in this position, didn't want to give them their book, but had to, because they weren't as privileged as I was, and their responsibilities were such that they had to give in to that person, to feed their family, to get that immediate thing we talked about earlier, the necessity covered. And for that necessity, they sold their book, they sold their life, they sold everything, the rights to the book and all of that, and it became a detrimental thing in their life. I need to create a space that helps people change. What did I do? I created Compassiviste Publishing. No print. The authors keep their rights to their books. I don't own them. All the money that Compassiviste Publishing makes goes directly to charitable causes. And when I say charitable, I don't mean nonprofit standardized. I mean like infrastructural help, support, things that we need in our society to turn into that Compassiviste, because profit makes no sense. Why do I need profit? No, I don't understand the concept of profit today, because it's that greed. So profit should be, that person has an amazing idea, put it in a book. I want to take that mind, publish it, share it with the whole world so they can elevate spiritually and mentally from the knowledge in that book. Whatever money they're willing to pay for that information should go back into the public. And so we're all eating. Nobody's starving here in this model. But there's no reason for me to have 2 t-shirts and everybody else to have 1. That is the difference in profit. So we did that, and we said we're not going to print, because we thought about it environmentally. 89% of all paper logged, this is fact, is illegal. And the FSC paper has so much stuff going on in what is FSC specifically that I can challenge a lot of people about how sustainable that paper really is when it's FSC, when you really dig deep into it. And then there was the child labor issue. A lot of books are printed in Bangladesh and India and Vietnam and these places, other than really small companies that it's cheaper for them to have a back office where they print the 15 books that their author is ever going to be able to sell. It doesn't make sense for them to go to Vietnam. It's not because they want to be sustainable. Not all of them, but most of them, it's not about sustainability. It's just an ROI model. It's cheaper for me to buy a Xerox printer and print the books here and bind them myself, and it'll be a mom and pop store and a publishing house, and that's it. And we'll give them the 15 books they want. If they were going to sell 5,000 books, they would go to India too. And then when you go to these places, I've been, you will see 11, 12-year-old kids binding the books with glue with their bare fingers to the bone. And that is how the book comes into the market. Then high stores carry them. And then you think of all the logistical issues and all the footprint of these stores and the employees who go in and out every day and everybody who drives there and comes back, or all of this stuff just for a book. Like get it on a platform. Then I thought, why is it that we don't have Spotify for books? In the sense of the model. I mean, we went in music, we went from vinyl to cassette to CD to Spotify. to digital, and we have access to much more music than we can ever even imagine, CD versus CD, at a price that is not even comparable versus the previous models, and almost zero or negligible CO2 compared to cassettes or CDs. And so when you take all of this, and the artists are making more money suddenly. So you take this model, there's no lose model to going digital. Why are we not doing this with books? Why are we not moving to a platform where I can have access to all the education of books I want for $7.99? Why do I have to buy a book for $40 and $30? And the more famous the author becomes, the more expensive the book. Why? Why not? And then the author's not making the money. The author's gotten paid by the publishing house. It's the publishing house that's making all the money. So instead of doing this, why not have a digital model that can pay the publisher? When you write books and you sell your books and you see somebody put in quotes, your quotes from your book, and just use it and share it and everything else, there's one side of you that feels pride. You're like, oh, that's so cool. They took my quote, they used it for something. But the other side is like, where did they get the quote? Did they ever, be involved with my hardships to put this information out there, my education and all of that? No, they stole it from somewhere. They stole it from Goodreads or somewhere, or some website that has quotes. Do you know how many times I see people quoting Gandhi or Martin Luther King that they've never read the books or the speeches or anything like that? They just saw the quote somewhere, or AI gave it to them and they put, but nobody there is getting paid for these things. So if we have a digital model, a lot of the authors can actually sustain themselves through the art, through the things they want to say. I'm building that. That's transformation. I'm building that transitionary model so that we can be the first Spotify, not in competition, just in a way that we can ignite this and repurpose the publishing world to the authors. The second example I'll give you is from very high fashion. And we'll talk about Brunello Cucinelli. This is a brand that is, in that upper echelons of fashion brands. And you think about the brand and you think, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, all those brand names, and they're all bad because, they're unsustainable, they're very overpriced, they're generally in the news because of some slave labor situation that they're involved in and whatnot. And it's just not right. And then with all the problems socially going on in the world, you're thinking, I can't justify, even if I have all the money in the world, I can't justify buying a $2,000 shirt when I walk out of the store, there's a homeless person dying in front of me. So all these things, right? So I'm going all the way up there. But listen to this. This person started the fashion house, and it's by his name. And he lives in a town in Italy, in the mountains. The whole town almost is employed by him in his firm. He uses the profit to repurpose into the arts and into culture, to preserve the culture and the arts of his community and society. He takes care of people. He knows them by family. He knows whose kids where, doing what, who's going to college, helps them from the company to essentially, have a communal feel there. It's not like, I don't know, there are people who work at Amazon or work at Apple who've never seen their C-suite, ever. They don't even know them. This person's in his work, his family too, okay? And they are as sustainable as you can be in this space. Most of their production happens in that town. I think it's over 70% happens in the mill right there, where you can see the people working. There's no slave labor. There's no, any of these tactics. There's no third-party agreements to make the T-shirts in some country, God knows where, that we're not complicit because we never knew. None of these things. Everything happens where you can go and see the factory. And you're allowed to go see the factory as the public. So yes, he's working up here. The cost of his product is up here. But you know what? You buy a product there, you have it for a lifetime. Is that $2,000 coat that you can buy and literally use for 25 years not worth the 50 coats that you're going to buy from fast fashion that are going to rip or tear, or they're fashioned in a certain way that you don't want to wear 2 years later because my friends don't wear this anymore, it's out of fashion, I can't go out like this, and I'll be talked about in some way or the other, and you fall into these traps. So there are ways as the businesses that we can do transformation by investment. This fashion house is a transformation by investment fashion house. They're not doing it for, they have lots of profit. I'm not saying they don't, but they're not doing it for the profit because they're reinvesting so much of their profit into the community that the community lives well. If every conglomerate idea, if every Facebook came out, Facebook by or Uber, by the nature of their business, are going to make a lot of money. It's not greed sometimes. It's just the nature of the service you provide. Like, Facebook is such a big service provided globally that if every person were to kind of pay in $1 to Facebook that uses Facebook, you're always going to be in the billions of dollars. So you can't blame them for providing a service that made a lot of money, but you can blame them for how they spend that money. That's where the greed comes in. If Mark Zuckerberg turns around and says, look, we make $20 billion a month from Facebook because it was such an amazing idea that services the public to stay in touch. And that 20 billion, we're taking 19.5 billion of it and repurposing it with the federal government into these models so that we can harmonize our society in the United States. What's wrong with that? The model was not based on greed, right? He didn't find a way to enslave somebody in Bangladesh to make t-shirts for 50 cents and sell them for $30 because he had a good marketing team that would, create that scenario for him. It's a service that generated a lot of money for the public. It's just the way that we do that. Cuccinelli is providing that service through his brand excellence. Facebook is not providing that service through their brand excellence. Uber is not providing that service through their brand excellence. We need those companies to start rethinking why they need this depository of trillions of dollars. I mean, Apple's worth trillions right now. Apple alone can sustain the American deficit, the national American deficit as a corporation. It would do a better job repaying your deficit than any American government can. But it's not. And it has the capacity. And that's one company. Put 50 of them together. America is going to be a beautiful country. And it's going to be sustainable, and it's going to be harmonious, and it's going to be, it's going to reduce all of the negative effects that it can. So that's on the mindset of the corporation, but that's not so different than the human consumer mindset, Corinna, because you can be the CEO, you still drink coffee. You still eat food. You still go supermarket shopping. You still go home and turn the lights on. All of these things are consumable. You're a consumer at that point. The choices you make on that side of the table are the corporation. You're both all the time. All of us are both all the time. So we need to make that mindset shift to continuously think in that space of how do we make choices that make the world a better place compassionately, and act on those and not be hypocritical.
Well, that sounds like a perfect summary for what Beyond Grade is teaching people to do. It felt like me from reading it that you were summarizing a lot of the action and the activism that you have pursued throughout this past 5 years with Compassiviste. So what I'd love for you to help me close this conversation with today is talking about what's next for Compassiviste, or what perhaps is exciting you most, and then how our listeners and those watching on YouTube can engage and contribute to this movement.
So at Compassiviste, we believe in the power of connection. And I think I say this often, so I'm not ashamed of saying it. I'm a kind of tech illiterate. I don't know how to put a website together or do any of these things, but I have a team who does, which is great. However, as much as we love tech, I believe that it has its limitations, okay? We can be Facebook friends or whatever, but having that face-to-face coffee is always going to be different, okay? And so I believe in the power of connection. So what we're doing is we're creating connective programs that people can really build that community. And the largest one at scale is our Compassicon, which is an annual global event which moves from city to city every year and is dedicated to exactly what I've been talking about, the transformation by investment model. And I'll give you a quick example. Let's just say, we're doing Compassicon in Las Vegas 1 year, right? And Las Vegas has a problem called, has a social issue called The mole people. These are people who live under the strip where you go and vacation and gamble and watch beautiful shows and have beautiful dinners and stuff. Right underneath you, there is a whole pipeline and underground. There are people who are homeless. They work. A lot of them work upstairs in the hotels and the resorts, but they live there because they can't afford. And so they live in those pipelines, and they some of them have addresses. You can go on YouTube and type "mole people Las Vegas." It'll pop up. There's some documentaries about them as well. So Compassicon goes to Las Vegas, has the concert, has the event. People come together. We have our book awards, film awards, all the events that we have. And what ends up happening is we're going to raise a lot of money. The money we raise, we're going to pre-dedicate to a cause. So we're going to say, you know what, we're going to come in and try our best to resolve this problem of people living in those homeless underground places. What are we going to do? We're going to go out a little bit out of Las Vegas, Henderson, or some other areas around, and we're going to buy a big plot of land. We're going to buy a few hundred acres with the money that we got. We're going to put in some homes there. We're going to move these people out and put them in those homes. We're going to give them co-op ownership of their gated community, so to speak. And we're going to allow them to develop some trade and businesses that are sustainable, that are along, with the public and with the groups that we get involved. And then we're going to leave because Compassicon's done. And, it was a 4-day weekend. It was great. We raised the funds and we got this rolling. And we would have talked to city council, to certain groups that take over from us and essentially make that happen. And in 3 to 6 months, we can showcase that again to people and say, look what your investment to coming to these concert events and the Compassicon did as a community. Please stay engaged with your community so that you can develop this further and make sure that you've eradicated this problem now that it's really 90% done. Now, next year, we're looking at another city. Now we're going to Cairo. What's the problem there that we can tackle? And we don't want to be crazy ambitious and say, we're going to end homelessness in all of Cairo. There's more than 8 million people who are homeless. So how are you going to do that? Can't do that. But what am I going to tackle? I'm going to start something that the community can get engaged in, have the platform, have the tools, have the empowerment that they can continue that they're not provided with now. Nobody in Las Vegas right now, with all of its billionaires, is providing that 100 acres and the houses, the prefab homes or built homes placed there so that the public and the community and the government can go and say, okay, guys, let's all come out, register your names. Here's your house. Here's your house. Here's your plot. Now own them. And you have a community and you have a gated community and you can start living here. And here are some rules and regulations and whatever. So it's not just, it's kind of allowing them to redevelop their lives and give them security and give them value and dignity. And that's how community happens. And that's how society comes to be. And we interact with each other and we trade with each other. So that's the purpose of each year. And as each year we show that we're resolving this, I think our global community grows. So you may be skeptical year one and say, you know what, I don't know if these people are really going to pay into this or they're going to do the work or not or whatever. And you'll just sit on the sideline and watch. But when you see the mole people move from the underground and move into their homes, I bet you the second year when we say we're going to do this, you're going to get involved because you've seen it. And then the third year, you're going to get involved even more and more people. In 5 years' time, my goal is to be like the Olympics, where people and governments bid for you to come to the city, even though it helps not the people, but just helps some of the wealthiest in every city that the Olympics goes to at the taxpayers' expense, essentially. What we want to do is be like the Olympics, where people say, please come here. We have this problem. We need you to set it up in a way that we can take it over as a community and go forth. Eventually, everything I do has an exit strategy. Compassicon will not be needed for people to understand that all we need to do is come together, take a problem, think about it, find how we can solve it as a community internally, and ask for help externally if we need to, and voila, it's solved and done. It's a teaching mechanism to get that resolved. So that is something we're excited about. That is something we're looking forward to. We have 16 programs that we're excited to share with people, just like the publishing program that I told you, the transition and how we treat our authors and everything else. But all of our models are essentially designed to create the transformation by investment. And, we're fortunate enough to have people who really believe in the model and really believe in Compassiviste and want to be connected and supportive of Compassiviste. And we have we have people who are doing global size events who are coming to us and saying, we love what you're doing. We love the impact this can bring. How can we be of service? And, so I feel that energy growing. And for the public and for your audience and everybody else, I think participation is the most important thing. Like I said, and I'm with people in today's world and the way the last at least 5 years have gone, so much segregation, skepticism, and just community falling apart has happened even within families, and for political reasons and economic reasons and everything else is going on, that it's really hard to ask people to trust you like they used to 40 years ago, just on word of mouth. So I'm not asking people to come in and donate. I'm not asking people to come in and please give us money so we can do this and save that. No, I'm just asking people to look at the model, think of it for themselves, wait until we launch them, see if they work, and just participate. The numbers is what matters. If you participate and if you come there and if you join us, whether it's online, whether it's our social media, whether it's at Compassicon, whatever it is, that is all we need to show that community coming together can essentially make the difference. Once we show that and you've seen it and you believe in it as well, then come in and say, Ali, you know what? I'm refinancing my home because I believe in this. That's when I want you to come with your whole passion and really believe in transformation. But not until you've seen it and seen it proven to you.
Well, Ali, I want to thank you so much for sharing your vision of a compassionate future with all of us today. I am, your enthusiasm really is contagious, and this aligns so much with everything I do here at Care More, Be Better. This show is an invitation to care more so we can create a better world. These ideas are completely aligned. And I truly believe that through this conscious sort of action and activism and through compassion, we can create a future that is much more harmonious like that you described.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for sharing your story. That was really powerful. Thank you. On behalf of everybody listening, I can say that. Thank you, because it's rare that you see someone so honest and so vulnerable and so comfortable and confident to share. So that was the biggest lesson I took from this.
Well, again, thank you. I'll encourage my listeners to pick up a copy of Beyond Greed. As you may have suspected from Ali's earlier remarks, this is available as a digital book only, and you can find it at Compassiviste.com. There you can also learn about the many other layers of work that this important organization is putting together as well. He challenges us through all of this to rethink our role in the economy and in our lives, really not just as a system of extraction and capitalism, but as a practice of empathy and harmony. And I personally feel enriched by your work, Ali, so thank you.
Thank you.
Now to all of you, remember, each time you subscribe to Care More, Be Better or join our newsletter, we plant a tree with forestplanet.org. Together, we've already crossed 27,000 trees when my goal for the entire year was only 20,000. So we're making a big collective impact together. And this sits right in the concept behind Ali's work. It's not about greed. It's about mutualism. It's about coming together. It's about our collective future and building with intention what we want that future to look like. Now, if Ali's message resonates with you at all, I strongly encourage you to pick up this work, Beyond Greed, and visit Compassiviste.com to learn more. Together, we can move beyond greed and towards a society that is fused and rooted in compassion. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Care More, Be Better, a podcast for social good. To make sure you never miss an episode, subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts, and share with your friends to help us reach more people and spread more social good.